Dum, 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 dum,
Space between, space between, space between, space between.
What is going on? This is the Space Between podcast where we talk about the space between life and art, passion and business, what's happening now and what's happening next. I'm Pat Shand, comic book writer, novelist, and now podcaster.
Hi, I'm Amy Shand. I am a creator, artist, and I also work for Space Between Entertainment. I am additionally Pat's wife and additionally a podcaster now as well.
Newly married.
Yes, recently married. And thanks for being here.
Hey, this is Shannon Lee. I'm the editor-in-chief of Space Between Entertainment, and I'm really happy to be here.
And this is Ryan Fassett. I'm a comic book writer and been working with Pat for a while, and now we decided to let you hear our voices.
Indeed. And this is our first episode.
Woohoo!
Pretty exciting. We're here to tell our origin story today. How we met, how we started out as a company, and why we do what we do. And I'll just start by saying that when I first started to write comics, I never intended to publish anything. I just I set out to write. But now that we have begun to use Kickstarter to publish our own works, we're starting this brand new venture called Space Between that is really a collective of artists that are doing different things like video, like podcasting, like writing. And the thing is, though, that beyond our creative aspect, we also have day jobs, right? We all met at our day jobs.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I want to talk about today the intersection between what we do to make money and what we do for our passion. And there is some overlap between there because I've been working as a freelance writer for the past like 3 years now.
Yeah, pretty recently, but still quite a good little stint now.
Yeah, and we all make some money from writing, some money from editing, and some money just from doing things that we hope to one day quit. So Shannon is who I met first, I think, actually, right?
Yeah.
Borders.
Sure. Yeah.
At Borders Books.
Taking it back.
R.I.P. Borders Bookstore.
Taking it way back
Yeah.
to the jump.
It's true.
Way better than Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. It's true.
Such a bummer about that.
Still carry our books, though, Barnes & Noble. We love you.
It's true. Yeah. Barnes & Noble, please. When the time
we
comes.
love Barnes & Noble.
We're totally pro Barnes & Noble, but Shannon and I met on the floor of Borders, where when I first came there, I was working as three things I was doing. I was working as a professor, and I would come there in my button-up shirt. And Shannon and all the others who were working at Borders thought that I was a corporate spy, that I was coming there to investigate
Shannon
what was going on.
Did not like him.
Did not like me at all.
I didn't like Pat at all in the beginning, but I definitely hold grudges on like new employees.
Same.
Because I'm continually like the veteran. I just like stay at my jobs
Same,
forever,
girl.
I feel
Same.
like. So any newbies I'm pretty harsh on for a while. But
Right.
Pat, yeah, like he said, he's walking in with a suit. And I
It
was just
wasn't a suit.
convinced.
No matter where Pat
saying.
is,
So
like,
you
he
took
doesn't
one look at
present
him and you're
himself.
Yeah,
like,
I was like,
whoa,
he's
this
a
is a
spy.
ginger narc
Right.
right here.
Yeah.
He's like too well
Not
dressed.
to be trusted.
Yeah, so
He's got that look.
I guess I do, you know.
Turns out he's pretty trustworthy.
Maybe.
Good
It's
enough
debatable.
to marry? No.
Yeah.
What if he's still on the take? Like,
Right? Imagine.
he's been doing this for like
This
almost a
whole time.
decade
we
now.
find
It's
his
like,
journal of notes?
yeah, it's like
Oh
Donnie
my
Brasco.
God.
He's playing the long game here.
I'm like, listen, Borders closed because of Shannon.
Oh my God, you shut it down.
I'm working on a lawsuit, you know.
my God.
But yeah, it was actually what drew us together was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Hell,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And we
he
still
was-
celebrate it.
Yeah, he was ringing up a customer and started talking about Buffy with them or Angel or something. And I remember I was doing something like kind of on the ground. So I like turned back like on the floor and like looked up at him and I was like, You like Buffy? I didn't know you. I didn't know you like Buffy.
That
And then it was like
changes things.
instantaneous friends.
Triggered
It's
your
true.
vampire sense.
Yeah, exactly. My vampire senses are tingling.
It really was just that, because I remember I just remember the tension between us, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember
It broke the ice.
I felt that you hated me, so I hated you back, you know. So I remember
I relate with that.
I
I like how
heard-
your relationship started with the most mature of terms there.
Right?
She hated me, so I hated her right back.
Yep,
Hated
she
her.
hated me first.
Yeah, right.
So I remember there was this one day where you were trying to get off for New Year's Eve, and
Okay.
I was like, she has fucking friends, you know.
Oh my god, this is great. I don't know about this.
but then
Salty.
all that it took was Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Yeah.
to
you're like,
show her that I wasn't a double agent.
Yes.
Joss
Double
Whedon
agents
bringing
can't
people together.
enjoy
Still,
Buffy.
yeah, it's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Only Veronica Mars.
Wait, what?
I said double agents can't enjoy Buffy. Only Veronica Mars.
That's true. It took Buffy the Vampire Slayer to bring us together, but I remember a specific incident where it was kind of our first creative collaboration.
Okay.
Do you remember? I was in the back and I was trying to write this short story for this zombie
Oh,
anthology.
I do know what you mean. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
and that's actually what stood out as the reason that I wanted to hire you for Space Between.
Oh wow, I
It's true.
completely forgot about that.
It's
too.
absolutely true, because I was there and I was working on this short story that was 10,000 words, which was by far at that time the longest short story that I'd ever been commissioned to write, and the pay was $100, which I thought was amazing. I thought it was amazing.
That's 100 McDoubles.
It is
so
100 McDoubles.
just
you
think
know?
of that plate.
Oh, and by the way, think of how many new spicy nuggets from Burger King.
Oh,
So many.
you'd give yourself an ulcer in one sitting.
This podcast is sponsored by the spicy nuggets from Burger King.
All the diarrhea you could muster up.
We're not sponsored by them, but I will say, Burger King, if you're listening and you want to sponsor us with either money and or spicy nuggets, we are open for that.
Yeah, this
But
isn't-
we will
this-
put out a counteroffer to Wendy's to bring back their spicy nuggets.
Yes,
This isn't an ad yet.
yet. This could retroactively
And,
be
and
an ad.
McDonald's, if you want to spice up your nuggets, we're willing to
I
give it a
love
shot.
spicy.
Imagine McDonald's spicy nuggets. Oh my god.
That'd be good, right?
You can't fly that close to the sun, man.
So yeah, back to Shannon. She came into the break room and we spoke about the story because I was struggling and I didn't think that I could get it done on time. I showed Shannon what it was and she thought it was the coolest thing ever. So just pushed me to do it. And when I was before Space Between, I was doing freelance work primarily, and I was exclusive to a company called Zenescope for a long time, where I had to write the projects that were given to me, and I didn't have that creative freedom. So when I had the chance to finally go back to close to the place that I was when I was creating that story, where I could pretty much pave my own way, I remembered that conversation and what pushed us to do that.
I was also like, it has a really dope cover.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. No.
We should
Judge a book
find
by its
who
cover.
drew that cover.
Yeah, we
Imagine that would be
should.
cool.
Hit them up.
That would be cool. But yeah, Shannon and I both went down with that ship. Borders
We did.
closed.
We were
they
there
rest
up
in peace.
until the end, like the liquidation process,
Yes.
the shenanigans, the hecticness.
So many shenanigans.
Did you
was
have any
insane.
like customer reactions when you told them like we're closing forever?
Well, there was the
Oh my
famous
God.
one.
Yes.
of,
what did they do?
Well, okay, with no furniture pretty much in the store, the children that would come in with their parents would run around like crazy. They thought it was just like
Free
a
for
place
all.
to play.
Yep.
And we, at this point, everyone had free range of using the loudspeaker to kind of like handle things. And
Did we ever?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Pat went on the loudspeaker and said like, hey, can everybody like watch out for their kids or whatever you might have said at that time.
Might have been a bit.
It probably
rude.
had some attitude,
Might have been slightly rude. You
but
know?
also
A little sassy.
Who
cares?
Sassy. That's it. Ryan has it.
Definitely
Might have been a
sass.
little bit sassy.
Yeah. But rightfully so. I mean, the parents weren't watching them at all. It's like
Right.
they came there like a park for the
Yes.
day.
A free one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, one of the guys that was shopping like turned to Pat from like across the room and actually was like yelled to him like, that was fucked up, man, or something. Like, and Pat was like, I have to keep order, like these kids are running into people and everything. And so when they came up to the register, that guy didn't want to be rung up by Pat because I guess he was like, fuck Pat.
He had beef with Pat.
Yeah,
Beefing.
total beef.
Straight
And then the guy
beefing.
came to
Said,
me,
"No,
and
not
I was
him."
like, "Oh, are we starting beef? Because now you got a problem with me too, you know." So I gave him an attitude. Pat watched and was like, "We're all a big team here. We're gonna
Right,
gang
it's us
up on
against
you."
you, bro.
Yeah.
That's
That had
right.
to be great though, because the store's essentially gone. There's no ramifications for
Yeah.
acting.
not at
Exactly.
all.
You,
You're
you
gonna
could have
get
like
fired?
Pat. You could have totally teabagged that guy on the counter,
Right,
and
absolutely.
Totally.
There was
he
no
would have
one-
had no recourse.
Yeah, there was no one to
Right.
fire us necessarily.
exactly.
Like our managers at that point practically were the liquidation people, and their concern was just like empty this place out.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so then when the guy was officially walking out, he gave us the finger, and we gave him the finger the whole way out. We were
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh,
Wait, do you remember
Flippy
what
the
he
bird
said?
this
Do
whole
Like, I can
walk."
play this game.
you remember what he said as he? I was gonna say fingered us.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, he said, this is why Borders is closing.
Yeah, and it's
Which
like
kind of strange logic there, you know.
definitely
That's
a
why
strange
the
logic.
entire company of Borders is closed.
That's why.
It's like
Because
none
of
of us would have had any sass.
Well,
prior
just out of
to
curiosity, what was he
closing.
buying?
Oh wow, I wish I
Actually,
knew.
Probably
I
like
just
a
want some like
men's
character
health
insight to
magazine.
this guy. Like,
I feel like
why was he so mad?
over in the like urban romance section? 'Cause
Really?
he was over on
Okay.
that side, which
Yep.
is interesting.
Maybe, yeah.
Or
Creep.
it
But at
wasn't.
that
It wasn't an
time-
anger management book. I'm guessing.
no. Oh, one time, somebody yelled at Sean. From the Bible section. He was standing in the Bible section, and Sean made an announcement saying we were closing or whatever, probably once again giving some sass because we
Right.
just don't care anymore. And the guy in the Bible section starts yelling like I need a minute,
Oh my God.
screw you, like I'm staying as late as I have to or whatever. And
He just needs to get to this last verse.
yeah, the thing is that he didn't buy anything, and then we
Don't
were
rush
like,
the
did he
Lord.
just
Exactly.
steal the Bible? Like, did
Imagine.
he walk out with it?
He's like, this Bible is too good for them.
yes.
Gotta
This
take
is a
it.
Meanwhile, at
great
this point,
read. Why
everything-
would you tear me from this?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
everything was probably like a
I need to
dollar.
find out what happened to
Right.
Jesus.
I'm enthralled right now.
Like,
Oh my god.
he really looks like he's up against it right now. I need to know how this ends.
Oh my God. Spoilers, he's fine. kind of.
Who knows?
According
you
to
know?
Mel Gibson.
Right. So yeah, Borders closed, and just to rip off what Amy said before, asking if customers reacted in a certain way. I will say that I found out that we were closing from a customer.
Yeah.
There were rumors, and then before we were told, the Borders.
Was it the customer that said, "This is why you're closing"?
Oh no! Imagine.
Thanks
like,
for the
what?
attitude, asshole. By the way, you're out of work.
Yeah.
Before that, you were just being a dick.
I was just being a dick, you know.
Pat was just a bad employee, essentially.
Someone came in and they said, "I'm sorry to hear you're closing,"
Oh man.
and I was like, "We're not. We're not." You
I
know.
don't remember how I
You're like,
heard.
"Sir, we don't close until 9:30."
Because all right, we had heard
And the guy
that.
from the Bible section starts screaming.
Yeah, he comes over and not ready. We had heard that we were chapter 11, you know.
Yes,
and
that
was
was
the
it.
first time I heard those words.
You're right though. I actually feel like that
Is
morning
that the
I
name of a bookstore?
No, chapter 11 is just what happens when you have to file for bankruptcy.
Does not chapter 11 book.
Chapter 1 books is a bookstore I worked at.
That would be
I'm
a
like,
great
what the
bookstore
hell?
name because
Okay,
they're all
sorry,
pretty
Shannon,
much
go on.
doomed. I don't even remember what I was just
Sorry.
saying. That's okay. Well, what were we talking about? What were we up to?
Just
How
the
you
fact that
guys-
we were
How
told that we were
found
closed,
out.
yeah.
Okay, so I think I found out from the news that morning too. Like I
Right.
don't think the managers told us. In fact, the managers started to quit a little
Right.
bit, and we kept getting replacements, which was a sign. Obviously,
Right.
people were jumping ship.
But no one told you directly still. Like,
No, I
after
think
all
we
that.
walked in and we're like, "Hey, we heard the news today, like
Right.
on TV or something."
And they reassured us.
Yeah.
Like, it's just chapter 11.
Yeah.
We're just going to close some locations, not this one. But
Exactly.
a few weeks later, the customer was like, no, like, you're all done, all of you.
But yeah, I mean, some customers, like, I shouldn't even say some. I can't even remember any being very respectful about it.
No.
It was kind of like everyone didn't care. Nobody, maybe like one or two stopped and said, like, I'm sorry, like, good luck getting, a new
Right.
job after this and stuff. But otherwise, people were very cold about it. Like, yeah, it was
We were
weird.
flooded with pyramid scheme folks who were trying to
Oh my
poach us
God,
for
you're
jobs.
right.
The fucking pyramid
Should've
schemes.
took one of those. No.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they're trained to go to those.
They are.
Yes.
Fucking
Vultures.
They are like vultures.
Crying
Hunting
on us when we're
grounds.
weak.
Absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely.
my, they're like, oh that just blew my mind.
It's
That's
true.
fucking insane.
It's true. They're there to catch the limping gazelles,
Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
I'm about to sell some lotions.
yeah, right. I went home and I looked up what is Primerica, and it turns out
That's the
it's
thing.
yeah, that's where a former coworker of mine and Amy's at a different job was trying to slang her pyramid scheme
Slang
stuff.
it.
Yeah, but yeah, so Borders closed, and Shannon and I remained friends and became collaborators a bit later on down the road. But while working at Borders, as we mentioned, I was a double agent for a college, and I actually taught Ryan over here.
Which, by the way,
So weird
I
for me to think
actually remember Ryan coming to Borders once
Yeah,
with like the crew.
yeah.
I'll be honest, I was the guy in the Bible section.
The truth is out. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
have like a
came, yeah.
pretty good memory, like
That's
with faces at
that's
least.
100% true.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, I
being there.
remember us making a little pilgrimage there to
Like a field trip.
see what he was up to there one day. And,
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
so
It's true.
funny.
I don't remember if it
Oh my
was
God.
while the ship was sinking or not, though. But.
It was probably before.
Okay.
I think it was before because my tenure at the college was about twice as long as Borders because Borders is closed. But yeah, I remember Ryan was one of my first interactions ever while teaching to class. And when I first went to class, my idea was I would go around the room and try to do a little icebreaker, right? I thought it would be a very creative exercise. I wanted to find out why each student was taking screenwriting. And my only rule was you can't say because it's required. And halfway through the room, everyone had played along. And then we got to Ryan. And do you remember what you said?
I said exactly what you asked us not to.
Exactly. Because it's
Without
required.
hesitation.
And what's amazing is that Ryan has turned out to be first the best writer in the class. Which at first I was like, this asshole. But yeah, Ryan's writing stood out to me. But what's funny is that Ryan actually, before I ever hired him or got him any gigs writing, you hired me for a project.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
No way. The
yeah.
tables have turned.
Tables have
I
turned.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So we were working on a screenplay, and now we're here working on comics. Do you remember how it was to be in my class?
It was dynamic. It was your first time doing it.
Right.
You know, you weren't like a seasoned teacher or anything.
I had no training whatsoever.
And pretty much you were straight out of the claessroom setting yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, you were a student like a couple years before.
Not
Not
I was,
even.
I was a student one semester before.
Okay, so as you see, creme de la creme of schools. Clearly, we're talking about Harvard here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So at first, it was much more straight laced. It was much more like, I don't know if you were trying to make like the good impression kind of thing or whatever. Like, but you were much more like to
Like,
the
do a good
book
job
and
at
like,
at your job.
yeah, you know,
so
like
boring.
yeah, you know,
I didn't even curse.
yeah, and you know, like the first time I saw him like really show emotion, and it was negative. Not even at me that day, but there we were a liberal arts college, so like we had theater, we had film, we had music, and the theater kids, being actors and all, were very boisterous and
Theatrical.
did whatever they wanted. They had no filter. So one of the fellas decided to go up to one of the girls and unzip his pants.
Oh my
and
god!
stick his thumb out and start like poking her in the face.
Oh
and
my god.
Pat was
In college?
like in the classroom.
Get
yeah,
out
like
of town.
so Pat turns and sees this, and I don't know if like I guess like he got the joke at first, but like he saw the motions and everything, and
Anyways,
he
his
acted
crotch
like
is
this dude
next
was
to her
sticking his dick in this
face.
girl's face,
Yeah.
and
That's
he just
exactly what he's doing.
he exploded. He's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you, man? Are you a piece
Oh
of
my
shit?" You
God,
know, like
that's my
just really
husband
went
right
off, and
there.
we were all like, "The nerdy new professor's letting this kid have it."
It's true.
And
You're such a hardcore.
yeah, so
feminist.
like
That's hilarious.
from then on, like I don't know,
I'm
like
surprised
that.
you didn't slap him across the fucking face.
Yeah, like from that point on though, like it was kind of like the tension was relieved in a way. Like he had exploded
You're
on a
like,
student,
oh,
so
he's a human.
yeah, you know, he had exploded and cursed out a student, so now it's cool.
That is what happened. That's exactly what happened.
That's so funny.
I forgot that until just now.
I'm
but
so glad to know that.
I remember one quote I said verbatim. The student tried to defend himself,
Yeah.
saying, "It's just my thumb," and I said, "But it's meant to represent a little dick."
I like how you rubbed it in that it was a little dick too. Like you're not even giving him the
Argued with
satisfaction
him
of
like
a big
lawyer.
dick.
I mean, he uses a little thumb, you know, like gross. What a piece of shit.
He really is.
But
Imagine, oh my god, where is he today?
who knows?
Actually, I will say that guy. I
It's
still know
Ryan's friend
he's
today.
matured up. He's a very
Oh,
good,
that's good.
you know, hardworking actor in another
Kids
city
are
right
kids,
now.
you know?
Still
But
has
Pat-
a
So you know,
little
it
dick.
doesn't
wasn't the
stand for
best
that.
environment at that school. So
That's so funny.
knuckleheads were running rampant.
They
But
really were. Yeah.
They really were.
a lone soldier of authority named Pat Shand was trying to keep them all in
trying
line
to
and
keep
learn
the
them the
peace, you
ways.
know?
It's kind of amazing that I wasn't fired. Especially, were you in the room for the whole glass breaking thing?
Okay, so I was down the hall, but all of my friends were in the room. Because, you know, Pat befriended like a group of us as students, and, you know, it was just like, we were all so close in age and everything. We all had the same interests. So, like, you know, people were always talking like between classes or like even in the classes and such. And yeah, I got word of that pretty quickly. I mean, you were there. You could probably tell what happened a little better as a first-hand account. But yeah, you want to?
Oh yeah, right. I just remember I was at the point where this was the kind of job where
This was like your second or third year there
Yep.
too. At this point,
I believe it was my second semester because it was the first time that they overbooked my class.
Okay.
So I walked into a room with 25 seats and 43 students, and it was just like
nuts.
standing room, and I was so pissed off that that this was happening, but it was manifesting through a frustration with the fact that whenever someone would leave to go to the bathroom, they wouldn't close the door behind them. So they would
is
just
weird,
leave
though.
and
Why
leave the door
wouldn't
open,
you-
right?
yeah.
So with 43 students in the classroom before it was split, it was just a constant door open, me walking over like an asshole and closing the door. So one time, a student left, walked out, and I just stalked behind them, and I was like, "This is what you do when you go to the bathroom." And I slammed the door, and it had a little glass square that just popped out and fucking shattered all over the place. So yeah,
You are scary, bro.
yeah. So
it was only part his Herculean strength though, and part the fact that this rickety shit school was just falling apart.
absolutely,
That's so funny, though.
absolutely,
That's great timing.
I think that the overarching thing that we're learning here, though, is that I was never meant to have a job.
No.
Right?
You're a great teacher, though.
You were
Thank
meant to
you.
make a statement.
I can confirm that. Yes, you.
Thank you, guys. And
You still are a great teacher, even though you don't teach a classroom. You teach me stuff.
you say that because you love me, okay?
No, you also teach Shannon
Yeah,
stuff.
you teach all of us stuff.
Everyone's stuff.
And this wasn't just a school gig for Ryan. Ryan was working there too. He was my TA for a while. And yeah, I remember that job was pretty much just half us probably doing the school work,
Yeah.
and half us talking about creative stuff. And I think that it was there at the school where we were surrounded by idiots, where we probably started to foster some of the creative energy that would go on to build
Definitely. On my end, especially, maybe taking a turn into comics, because you were already working in comics at that point, aside from these other crazy jobs, this is even pre, Zenescope, if I remember correctly.
Right.
You were still freelancing all over.
Yes, I was not yet exclusive.
And like I remember, I would proofread some of your stuff. You would have me look over your pitches, see if they were interesting and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was kind of, I was on a straight road, like being like, okay, I only want to work on movies. That's kind of my goal here.
Right.
But kind of like not working myself, but helping you and seeing what you were doing and stuff, seeing how that creative process worked with comic books. As a side note, I've been a comic book reader and fan literally my whole life, but it was just something like I didn't, I guess, aspire to do necessarily.
Just something you enjoyed.
Yeah, I was a fan, and I read all of them, and for some reason I just always wanted to make movies though. But yeah, seeing that stuff and like in a way some of the more creative freedom you have with comics as opposed to movies, I don't know, like I kind of started veering into that and like, asking him, like, hey, like, give me some pointers. What book should I read about doing this?
Right.
Like to give it a stab in the dark. And, like immediately he was recommending, Alan Moore's book on, creating comics and
good one. Such a good
Stephen
one.
King's On Writing, which I still have and everything.
Yeah.
So, it really started kind of a almost like apprenticeship kind of thing there, so and that was totally in that environment, it was in that space. It's one of those like, oh, if you weren't here at this time right there, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. And I think that what you do, Ryan, is when I first met you, Ryan was producing short films that he was writing and directing. And I think that what we do in comics is kind of close to that, because normally when we become screenwriters, once the script is done on our part, whoever gets it, whoever pays for it, can change whatever they want.
Yeah.
The screenwriter in Hollywood, unless you're working on TV, if you're working in movies, you are not the boss, right?
No.
In comics, you put what happens in every panel. In our case, we're working on the book with Shannon, who's the editor, so we're a lot more in charge, and we're a lot more, at least a partner in directing the creative vision, right? But yeah, I left Five Towns, I believe in 2013 or
It was a year after I graduated.
Yeah,
so
2013,
2014.
2014. And I moved to California, and I transferred to a Starbucks there, where I met Amy, who would later become my wife.
That's true.
And Amy still works at a coffee shop, and she has two jobs. And what I wanted to ask you, Amy, is that now that you are working on multiple creative projects, because Amy is writing a graphic novel series called Cloncers. She's working on a book coming out next year. She is a sculptor, and she's a model and a singer-songwriter. And this is the bragging section. But I want to ask, and then I want to ask each of you too, how do you deal with the balance, right? Because Amy, you have two jobs, and the entire time that I've known you, you've had either one or two jobs, and you have consistently maintained a creative output. So how do you balance that?
Right, that's a good question. Lately, not so well.
Okay.
That's honest.
Because my jobs are more, the jobs that I have are more strict as far as scheduling goes, and the hours are like long. But as far as the creative output thing, it's just, I would say that I think it's the kind of like people that we are, because everyone that I work with as a barista has more than one job, but like they choose to spend their time different ways, you know, like their time that they're not working. Like, for example, you know, they'll go out, you know, to a club, or they'll go like even to like a museum, or go hang out with their significant other who they don't live with.
Right.
So they have to make that time as well, almost like another job. But since we live together, like honestly, my favorite thing and some of my favorite people are like right here. So after work, you know, you come home, and like the thing with being a freelance and a creator is all of the things that I would like to work on. Typically, I don't have to go far or even leave like my workspace for.
Right.
And I still can feel like very successful and satisfied in the things that I've gotten done that day. But it's not the energy of like, you know, going out, you know, like on a canoe ride or something like that I planned on my day off. Like, I would rather plan to get a few monster commissions done, hang out with our cats, practice a couple songs,
Right.
and then boom, that's the day. And it's just the fact of like, I am okay with that, and some people might not be. They might feel like, oh, I need to get out of the house, you know, I need to get out of the house. But with the two other jobs, that is my out of the house. Yeah. So in the house, it's good. And so that's how I probably am able to get things done when I do get things done. But otherwise, like I said, like lately I've just been mad tired because my jobs start early and end late.
And that's, I think, true of a lot of what we do, is that if we're working a side job to maintain our income, but then still have to maintain a creative output, that's very difficult, right?
Yeah,
that
for
is,
sure.
I know that Shannon, you deal with that balance as well.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm the opposite of Amy with like I can't balance it. Like I'm being completely stifled by day jobs. Like I feel like when I was growing up, I had so many interests and different
Right.
things I would try out and everything, and then jobs just took over my life.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like I was working 3 jobs at
Right.
once and everything.
Like even writing in a journal takes too much energy.
Yeah,
like
too
I'll
much
write
time,
a list
too
like,
much
oh,
energy.
tomorrow I'll write my journal. Fuck that.
Exactly. And I feel like, well, like you said, I mean, I did consider that my time out when I was at work, and I do spend a decent amount of time at home then, but when I'm home, I'm just too tired and drained to do anything creative.
Totally.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a soul sucker to work some of these
Especially
jobs
if your
out
job
there.
is in customer service.
Yes. Yeah.
Or sales, which is customer service.
Yeah,
Like,
which,
and that's
like,
what all of us
have done
dealt with,
before.
you know?
Yeah.
And I want to kind of ask you all about that. Is I feel, and this probably makes me sound cooler than I am, and but I mean definitely does. I feel the kind of like Superman
Disclaimer.
Clark Kent kind of dichotomy where when working at a day job, especially I worked at a coffee shop with Amy. I would go to a convention where I would sign hundreds of comics and then go back to the day job where someone would curse at me for not stirring their green tea correctly.
Yeah. Right.
So how do you handle that thing where you feel that that you should be and that you deserve to be doing something that you think is more important?
And like if they knew you more than one interaction
Right.
over a counter,
Yes.
that maybe they would respect you more in the way that you deserve, but you don't
Right.
have that time, so it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Right.
It's, to me at least, like, side note, it's kind of like funny, you know, he used the Clark Kent Superman analogy, and what you're all saying is like what's interesting about that, you know, sort of a secret identity with that character, the duality of the most powerful man in the world hiding behind a nebbishy, nerdy
Right.
guy that no one looks in
Yeah,
the eye, you know,
totally.
and everyone kind of walks over, and
Right.
inside he's like, you don't know who I am.
Right.
You don't know what I'm capable
Well,
of.
Totally.
I think what
You
takes
know,
a
it's
lot
funny.
of my energy too is like I try to be like Clark Kent at every single job I have when I should really prioritize my energy.
Yeah.
Like, why am I worried about? I mean, I should be mildly worried because it's my job, but why am I so concerned about the like accuracy and cleanliness and the way I look, like, and the way I treat customers, like, all day, to the point where I'm so exhausted when I get home that I don't want to spend energy on something that I actually enjoy.
I completely
like
get
I
that.
enjoy doing a good job at work, so much so that I'll spend so much energy to be the best, or like, or try to, you know. So like, that's the thing too, is like, I'm also very competitive. So no matter where I'm at, if it's at like a food service job, if I'm watching someone's kids, like, I strive to treat them like they're my kids.
Right.
So that takes energy as well. I'm not just there like, oh, whatever, just don't die.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I think in a way that's the creative artist shining through, though, because
and I bring
I've
play
never
to the kids
I've
too.
never known a genuinely committed artist that wants to suck at what they do.
Right. Yeah,
They're always
exactly.
like,
it's a performance.
you know, that's why a lot of artists can't look at their own work, because you will always go back to it and nitpick it. You know,
critique,
you can make the greatest movie ever, the greatest song ever, the greatest book ever, and have droves of fans, and it could be the most successful, well-regarded thing in the world. If that creator goes back and looks at it, though, they will find something wrong with it.
Right.
Oh,
Because
totally.
you will always see the imperfections of your own work. So with that sort of mindset, that work ethic, even if you're not necessarily making something creative at that time, if you're doing a counter job, if you're doing a hourly job, you're still going to have that same kind of, you know, way your brain works about
Totally.
it. You're going to put too much effort into
Yeah,
it.
like,
You're
it
going to
doesn't
be a
just switch
perfectionist.
off when you walk in the door,
Right.
unfortunately.
You can't change who you are, you know, how you approach things.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what's interesting of like, yeah, there's like your creative skills and talents when you're doing artsy types of things, but meanwhile they shine through in different
Right,
settings.
like you said the same thing. You
Yeah.
enjoy doing a good job at work.
Yeah.
Like at your job that you just left, like, yeah, you just said you hated it, but I even remember when you'd be like, damn, like, I beasted it today.
Exactly.
Like, there was a situation and I handled it. And
Yeah.
that feels good when
Yeah.
you know how to, when you can, you
It
know.
does.
And you're
I
like,
was definitely
good.
like a perfectionist at work.
totally.
And then, I mean, it just shows when even being hired as like Pat's editor, how I'll like overlook things again and again. It's just like an eye for, you know, fixing things or
Right.
whatever. Because it's like, that's all I did all day at work was make sure my store was perfect and everything, and being kind of obsessed with it. But it's
Right.
like, that's where all that energy
kind of
went.
like,
If I
for
was
what?
there all
Right.
day, it's like all my energy just went to that job.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wish that there was like a bath, like, bomb that existed that literally just like energized you. Like, not just said it did. Like, actually did. You know? Not like a re-energizer. No, like some real shit. You know?
I heard that you can
Seeping
bathe
into
in
your
coffee.
pores.
That sounds sketchy.
It does sound sketchy.
Hell no.
We could try like plutonium.
Wouldn't it like dye your skin?
Yeah, but that's okay.
You're gonna get a coffee tan?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I mean, people can be orange out here in these streets now.
My
you
nose
know?
is so stuffy. I sound like a total mouth breather on the first episode.
No, you
I was
don't.
actually the other day,
Podcast.
maybe it was yesterday, I don't remember. But
I'm not used to this.
I always tend to like, I'll read something or I'll watch something and then research the background behind it and then kind of go down the rabbit hole and, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
research
Oh,
everything
hell
else.
yeah.
And I can't remember her name, but there was a powerful queen sometime way back when, and she's responsible for like the deaths of like hundreds of people because she would have them killed, young women.
I know what this is.
She would have them killed to bathe in their blood because she
yeah.
believed that
Oh, yeah,
if she
that's-
bathed in the blood of the youth that it would like rejuvenate her.
Yep.
Yo.
I
That
don't
is-
remember. Do you know who this
I
is?
do.
I'm gonna email Karen Kilgariff.
That is Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes, Bathory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Bathory? Like a blood bathory?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Well, she was kind of known as like a vampire in
Yeah.
a way, like early known.
it is funny her name's like that. It's like, you know, people read comics and stuff and they're like, oh yeah, his name's Mr. Freeze. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
here you go.
There you go.
Yeah, dude.
There's
And it-
like studies on that too, that sometimes your name or your last name might actually,
Influences you?
influence what you're gonna do in your life or
True.
something.
And in fact, I'll say my friend Troy Brownfield wrote a book for Dynamite called The Blood Queen about her.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say that this podcast is brought to you by Dynamite Entertainment
Oh damn.
Troy, get out here.
In association
Come
with
on
Burger
out.
King.
in association with Burger King Spicy Nuggets.
Just to clarify, the Burger King has nothing to do with the Blood Queen.
No.
Just so you guys know, we love spicy chicken nuggets.
We do. It's.
I think we're just a spicy chicken fandom here.
It's
I
true.
call them spuggets myself.
Spuggets.
I think that we can't.
Spicy nugs.
We can't move on from this that quickly. I just want to say, these nuggets are 10 for less than $2.
Damn,
That's
dude.
incredible.
Oh my god.
That's incredible.
Would
So
you
Burger
bathe in
King,
the
again.
spicy nuggets?
What was that?
You would bathe in the spicy nuggets.
Oh yeah, I would just bathe face first and just start munching.
Oh my god.
All right, so
Crazy.
so what I want to do now is we have some questions from our would-be listeners. We have some readers who we
Like Sockley, your Twitter followers and stuff.
pretty much Twitter followers, Facebook followers,
Kickstarter friends.
Kickstarter supporters. We reached out to some of our biggest supporters and asked if they have any questions for us.
We got a couple pigeons that flew up with notes attached
Oh,
to their
yeah.
legs.
Oh yes, so some Hogwarts owls.
I wish.
You know, here's the good one. Let's start with this one. All right, so I want to preface this with an announcement. Ryan and I are going to be working on a fast food show. Okay, where we review fast food items.
And occasionally bathe in them.
It's true.
Oh my god.
It's
Stay
true.
tuned.
Imagine that's our hook.
Just saying, I think we kind of just stumbled upon the $1 million
You're gonna be
idea.
able to
we did.
buy
Burger
a
King
calendar
bath
on
bombs.
Kickstarter. Bath bombs, calendars,
Burger bath bombs. You can't tell me no one would buy that.
coffee bath bombs though.
It's true. Here we go. Sabrina Alexandra asks.
Askeded.
I can't speak.
Pregnant. Pregnant.
What motivates you to write such epic fast food reviews and instantly make me want to be the worst eater of all time, sometimes quite successfully? All right, so this comes from the fact that on Instagram, about 1/3 of my posts are pictures of fast food that I've consumed and a review of that fast food. And that's actually what inspired me and Ryan to start this show.
Which, again, that actually goes back to our days at the school together, because neither of us are working towards the Olympics, if you've
It's
seen
true.
us. So we are both...
And I love food too. Like I want to get in on this as
We
well.
we had a
Doesn't
particular
matter, you know,
like mutual appreciation for weird
Right.
fast food items, like secret menu items stuff. Pat used to work.
specialties.
Yeah, Pat worked at McDonald's at one point, so like he would always
4
like,
whole years.
yeah, he
You
would
really?
share like the insider secrets to like,
that.
oh, this is the craziest sandwich I put together and stuff.
Yep.
So we started, and you know, we were together there at the golden age of fast food places just becoming mad scientists, and like, so we tried the Doritos tacos together and like, you know, the crazy shit. And so we found that we were wasting too much time when we should have been, you know, like planning these classes, doing in-depth discussions on stupid ass fast food items. So fast forward, now we're gonna make you all sit there with us.
It's true.
Yay.
It's true.
Are you guys gonna have guests and stuff?
Yeah. We want like
Amy
guest
just wants to come
reviewers.
on and eat the
I
food.
literally
Yeah.
want to eat fast food.
Amy
with
just
you
wants to eat the
guys.
food.
I do.
And I'll just say today, I haven't posted the picture yet, but follow @PatchChan on Instagram to find out my thoughts on Popeye's Smokehouse boneless wings.
Is Popeyes in California?
Oh, you know what? I don't know, and I'll only say I don't know because
Somebody
there's
tell
an
me.
amazing fried chicken place that I would always go to in San Diego when I lived there. So I never searched Popeyes because
Right.
I think I've seen Popeyes in LA.
LA probably.
I'm pretty,
Probably, yeah.
LA has like
but that's
every
like 2.5
crazy ass
hours
fast food
away.
place under the
But
sun.
according
so
to
it's
Pat,
pretty
it's
cool.
worth the drive.
Yeah. Oh, Popeyes is beautiful. I mean, Popeyes is about I'd say half an hour from any point where I am usually.
I've never
I'll
had
still
a
go.
I've never had a bad item at Popeyes.
No.
Like there's
Only
some
when
better
it's
than
old.
others, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. All right. So let's do
Moving on.
2 more questions. Nadia Shamus asks, do you have any tips about how to keep artists and writers on schedule for producing their content? This is a good one for you, Shannon.
How to keep people on time.
How to keep them on time, how to whip them into shape.
I mean, well, it's continually reminding people
Right.
too. I mean, artists are just like anyone else. They have a ton of other stuff going on in their lives, and you know, we just have to take the responsibility of reminding them when their deadlines are, extending deadlines if they need. I mean, we're pretty open with anybody that we work with. They can tell us anything that's going on. Like, just tell us if you need more time. We get it. We can adjust things to still fit properly most of the time.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
When
I
you
think
set a deadline, do you do it with an extension in mind, like all the time, like in case this person needs an extension, like if you know someone's always late, even if they're not, or like you're just paranoid, you like set your party for like 6:30 or whatever, but it starts at 7.
I mean, we don't like always necessarily like plan that
like
there's gonna be
leeway.
But I mean, I feel like we schedule most people ahead of time.
Yes.
In general,
Okay.
like
Yes.
even
So
before,
in a way, but more for
in a
you
way.
than them.
Exactly,
Okay.
more for
Yes.
us, because it's better to have it in the clear. The project part, like of whatever their project is done, and then we don't have to worry about it later on when it's like the last day to get stuff done.
And the thing is too that say someone is late. When we give them an extension, it gives them more time, but it doesn't give the people working after them more time. Like Jim Campbell is our letterer and designer, so if someone is late in providing pages to him, it'll be that Jim has less time, right? So we try to keep those artists moving so that Jim can have the optimal amount of time to create his part.
Yeah.
You know,
With what Shannon said, though, I think like from the outset, at least on every project with this company that I've been a part of, you really stress the importance of communication.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
And, you know, and that goes for at any given time. You know, what's cool about Pat and Shannon is you could message them or email them at 3 a.m, and they're probably going to get right back to you.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know if that's, speaking to how dedicated they are or their odd sleeping habits, but but either way,
one because of the other.
yeah, either way, I think at least with everyone I've worked with here so far, there really seems to be just this totally chill, open line of communication where it's like, hey, personal life, bad circumstances, whatever, just let everyone know. And we can work this out.
Yeah, because if somebody needs more time, we could always throw in something in between. Like, okay, if that person needs another month, but we have this other part of the project that needs to be done, let's just do that part now or something. Like you said, to keep things moving, because it's like if you go on a complete stall, then like things start to fall behind.
On Modern Dread, which, we just got funded and everything, we wanted some work from the artist done before we started the funding portion of it, just as a visual attraction for people. And things happened. We had to shuffle the roster a little bit. But, it was through that communication process that, okay, this person's not going to work out for this part of it, but we've got this guy here who was supposed to do a more limited part of it, is now going to step into that role and picked up the bat and swung for the fences, So that's all just, keeping it moving. If you have a date in mind, if you have, a end goal in mind, that's what we're all working towards. It's a team effort, and, those spots have to be filled. So as long as we're all on the same page, we can all sort of communicate and just get it done somehow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the most amount, like you said, the most amount of communication, because if the person is falling behind despite any personal life issues that might be happening, it could also be because they have an artist block over it, and they need more information or visual images to spark them to create this thing that maybe they're having like artist block over.
And we try to be as open as possible for discussion, for conversation, to help out in that way.
Yeah, Pat will explain.
I think one of the
about
biggest
characters
mistakes that a lot of people, either seasoned people or even people just starting out in comics, have is treating artists like these hired guns of sorts, just do what you're told, read the script, make it happen. They're the creative force on a book just as much as the writer or anyone else is. Just respect that, they're a living thing with a great talent, and just like you'd want to be treated with your talent, you know. So
Oh, totally. And that talent equals time equals money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I can't imagine ever being a part of a company that would put somebody down because they like didn't get what they wanted or anything. Because it is just
and it happens a lot, unfortunately.
That blows my mind because it's like everyone that we find or we hire like is incredible.
Yeah.
But like maybe like you said, they didn't fit for a certain thing. That doesn't mean that they're not good. Like it's just means
we all
they
just
could do
want
something
an
else.
awesome comic at the end of this. That's
That's
all that
it.
matters, you know. And if that means there's some shuffling of personnel, then that'll happen.
It's
But
true.
The end result's all that matters.
And speaking of awesome comics, Matt Ruiz asks, why do Modern Dread? How excited are you to get Modern Dread into people's hands? Favorite horror movie? so, just to start us off, Ryan, can you introduce what Modern Dread is and why Matt is right now asking about it?
Okay. To put it simply, Modern Dread is a horror anthology comic book. That means that it's a collection of short horror stories. There is a thread story, which is, you know, sort of your setup. Think Are You Afraid of the Dark? Your thread story is that you have these kids at a campsite telling scary stories every week. We have something in that vein. It's not that, but we really have kind of touched on the at least the format idea for a while now. Like I can remember Pat and I kicking this idea around originally as almost we were thinking of maybe doing it as a web series or like a TV show kind of thing.
Years ago, right?
Years ago. Yeah. And we've had a lot of different people come in and out, you know, thinking of how to do that. The problem is the same problem with everything in movies and TV and all that, money. It's a lot and it requires a lot, especially to do it episodically. So then I was like, okay, well, why don't we just do it as a comic book? Because at least resource-wise, everything's a little more in-house. We needed a hook, though. And that hook was we were kicking around potential story ideas, and we kept coming back to the idea that it seems like a lot of archetypal monster stories or ghost stories or whatnot are still kind of stuck one foot back in, you know, the old ages. You know, like if you look at all the classic horror stories kind of came from specific time periods, like Frankenstein and Dracula and the Invisible Man were all written around the same time. And, you know, the Grimm fairy tales were all around the same time. And so we thought, hey, let's create some horror stories that'll really hit people in the gut today. You know, the world's a scary place. I don't know about you guys, but it's getting harder to walk out my door every day. Turning on the TV is a friggin' adventure every morning now. Due to obvious
the computer
reasons.
now, yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. You know, outside our walls are scary now, and there's a lot of fodder. There's a lot of inspiration for that. So it was like the light bulb turned on there, you know, and Pat came up with that great title, Modern Dread. You know, it just rolls off the tongue. And I think just the title alone attracted a lot of interested people, you know. We were almost effortlessly able to get these amazing talents on board creatively, writers and artists, not even just inside the book, but, you know, Mike Caprati did that killer cover for us. And,
So
you know,
gorgeous, yeah.
Ryan Best did these awesome trading cards for us. That'll be, you know, a part of the experience, you know. So what I would say is, hey, you know, if you're looking for a new kind of horror, something that doesn't feel like we're retracing old steps here, we're really trying to sort of open up some new doors here, try to tell some stories we haven't seen before in the genre, try to bring in some new voices, try to bring in some new ways of looking at the world, you know, and while still incorporating, you know, the macabre and, you know, like the more classic things. We do have ghosts, we do have monsters, you know.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
not like we're just doing, you know, sterile, like Law and Order type episodes here,
Right.
you know.
It's like a haunted Black Mirror.
Exactly, yeah. We pitched it in some articles as Are You Afraid of the Dark meets Black Mirror.
Right.
And the only difference between, well, not only difference, but one of the main differences between us and Black Mirror is that instead of focusing on technology. We focus on culture as a whole.
Right.
And yeah, we just had our Kickstarter campaign. We went a few thousand over our goal. And the reason that I did Modern Dread and that I greenlit it was because, one, it was an idea that Ryan had a while back that I liked. And that upon developing it together, I realized that it was a place that we could just tell stories that we cared about.
Yeah.
And that's what matters about this company to me, is telling stories that creators are passionate about. And to answer Matt's question at the end, my favorite horror film, I like Evil Dead 2. I'd say the scariest horror film to me is The Ring. I can't even... The fact that I just said the words The Ring...
I know, that was pretty impressive.
That's gonna fuck my shit up.
Guys, I'm looking at him right now, and there's this big damp spot growing in his pants. It's amazing.
It's true. It's true. I have
Shaped like a ring.
I have sometimes crippling OCD, and it attaches itself to certain thought spirals, and one of those thought spirals is connected to that movie, where if I don't tap the spine of a movie with a good ending, and by good I mean happy ending, every night in increments of 8, then I can't go to sleep, and that movie right now is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Nice.
And so
That movie's got some like societal horror scenes in it.
it's true. It's true.
But the ending is
situational.
good.
The ending is good, and so I used that one to sort of combat my fear of The Ring.
Kristen Bell versus The Ring.
Kristen Bell versus The Ring, Okay, so how about you guys, Amy?
I don't know. It would have to be like an alien movie.
Amy loves aliens.
I do.
yeah.
You mean like the franchise Alien, not just like, any alien or
No, not the franchise Alien.
Just
like
the
a
genre in
movie.
general.
Oh, just like
Like it, like
outer
one
space.
of the. Okay, so I'm trying to think of the name, but there's like this movie that I can't remember the name, but it's about these people that go on a hike up in this icy mountain.
Oh yeah.
Am I right?
Yep.
They go on a hike on this icy mountain, and they fucking, long story
Horrifying.
short, they meet an alien.
It's a long story, extremely short.
Spoilers. They meet it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Shit is fucking gnarly.
Yes.
it's like a
Anyways.
dark version of E.T.
Basically, it's super scary, it's super realistic, and it has time travel involved, which I love that shit. So
Amy
I'm
and
gonna
I-
have to look up the name. What was it called?
I don't know, but we watched a
Based
few.
on a true story, no?
I mean,
No.
Based on a true
There's a couple
conspiracy
white flags
theory,
there
no?
for me.
Nobody climb up mountains
red
anytime
flag.
soon.
I swear, I'm gonna have
Aliens
to
up
look this
there.
shit
Hold
up
on.
right now. You don't even know.
Maybe-
Don't get me started.
maybe inspired by a true story. Because
All right,
the-
we'll see right now.
no, it's true. Check it out.
I wanna know the name.
I learned from watching The Strangers, which is credited as inspired by true events, but that shit never happened. But
Yeah,
but
you
home
can-
invasions have happened.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
I read a thing recently, like how they word that. Like, there's based on a true story, and then
What I
there's
Googled.
inspired by real events, and those mean two completely different
Absolutely.
things.
Oh my God! Second one.
Devil's
Boom.
Pass.
Devil's motherfucking pass.
That's it.
Sorry, excuse my French, everyone. I'm tired.
It's okay. Shannon, how about you?
So I don't have a favorite horror movie because I'm a big scaredy cat. And
Yes.
I
She
can't
doesn't
watch
do it.
horror movies. I was convinced that when I was growing up that my house was haunted. I mean, I'm still convinced to this day.
Terrifying.
Let me come
My
over.
house was totally haunted.
Mine
Trying
too,
to
actually.
chit chat with
Yeah.
the ghosts.
Mine, I feel like, was like a little girl, and that's why when I saw The Ring as well, I just lost my shit because I'm like, there's a little girl in my house.
Horrifying,
And
yes.
no, anything with kids in general is so disturbing.
Dead
like,
kids are the scariest you
oh
can do.
my God,
They
they're
can
so
be quite
scary.
creepy.
They really
Yeah.
can. And how about you?
All right, so
It is based on a real documented alien
Jesus
story.
Christ.
Oh my god.
Anyways, moving on. That's another podcast.
Next on Space Between Entertainment podcast
Space.
is the space between.
Amy explains which
The
movies were
space
based on
between
true
the
stories.
aliens and us. Not much.
All right, Ryan.
Okay, so my favorite movie ever is Jaws, and that movie scares the living shit out
Oh,
of
yeah.
people, right? But it's weird. I don't consider it a horror movie because, like, I don't know if that's me being, really limited and like, because, horror movies, there's those tropes you expect to see,
Right.
like you think like supernatural or, something a little, with that kind of flavor, that
Yes.
darkness. Jaws to me is kind of more of like a summer adventure movie. That
Yeah,
it's like a
definitely
thriller,
action-adventure. Yeah.
it-
Definitely.
Few movies have ever scared the shit out of people to this day like that movie does. Like it's
Oh yeah, people didn't like bathe for weeks.
yeah, it destroyed that like
I'm
summer's
serious.
beach season,
Right.
and to this day, even if you're in a swimming pool, all right, like swimming pool in your backyard, if some asshole's in the water with you and just starts going dun dun
I was just gonna say.
every motherfucker will get up and get out of the
Even
pool.
still.
There's no shark in your pool. There's no
Or
fish in
no,
your
at
pool.
least know what you're talking about.
There's
Exactly
like
what
some
you're
pee in your
talking
pool,
about.
but so it's an effective scary movie, but I can't see it as a horror movie. And it's like dead serious, my favorite movie ever. But I don't see it as a horror movie. Like my favorite horror movie, the way I think of it is probably the first Halloween or The Exorcist.
That's a scary one.
Yeah,
So
The Exorcist.
Fucking scary.
How
The
doesn't
Exorcist
like
really
the,
bothered
devil
the
shit.
shit out of me.
You don't like that.
Which one?
The
demon-
devil, anything to do with the
demon type
devil.
stuff.
What's great about The
And, like,
Exorcist is
possession.
they show you lose faith in everything else before you have to accept what it is. That whole thing where they show the little girl going through the medical tests and like the spinal taps and stuff. And it's like, and they show that painfully and violently. And it's like, okay, you've eliminated every possible thing. And now you're stuck with the unbelievable.
It's the devil.
And it's really messed up. Like the making of that movie, like they the director Friedkin, he actually spliced in like demonic images, like single frames of things in the movie that you can't see with your naked eye because how fast film moves. And so subliminally they're scaring you.
I'm not with that.
Let me say,
They're actually like getting in your head with
fuck
that movie.
that guy.
That's
Yo,
Fuck
that
that guy.
I
is
met him
genius.
actually. I
Get
studied with
out of
him
my head.
That's so
at one
smart.
point, and he's
What-
an interesting guy.
What is his problem?
He would go
He's
on the
great.
set and fire a gun to like get them nervous,
Jesus
to get the
Christ.
actors like on edge,
This
to
guy's
get that
either,
like
like, a
natural.
genius,
And he
or-
wouldn't tell them like when things were gonna jump out at them, so he'd get their natural like bursts of bursts of fear and stuff. So
Jesus Christ.
that movie's like
Imagine if someone had
dangerous,
a heart attack on the
scary.
set.
Like
yeah, right.
when they showed it, they had to call ambulances for like old ladies and stuff. Like
And me. Right?
yeah, so that's kind of like, whoa, this isn't even like a movie. This is like a supernatural experience in and of itself.
Jesus Christ.
And Halloween's just fucking awesome. Like,
Now, before I have too many nightmares, let's get to our last question of the podcast. Stephanie Galvin asks, and this is a pretty intense one, you guys. How do you feel your work can speak to the current political climate while
boy.
still remaining relevant in the long term? How are you striking a balance? Or are you worried that sharing your beliefs might alienate some of your readers?
Well,
eh.
a big thing to say about that last part about alienating readers, I feel like we go in a direction of our own personal views, and we'd prefer to have our readers be on the same page in a way,
Aligned with our
open-minded readers, like cultured readers.
Yeah.
If you're if you're too closed-minded, we're honestly not the company for you in a way.
Yeah.
Which it's like, no, of course nobody wants to.
Like, no
Yeah, we don't
offense,
want to like ruin
quote,
our
unquote.
business over anything or like turn people away. But like I said, I mean, I can't imagine a very bigoted person being a fan of us, and
Same.
we don't really want them to be either.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's true. I feel like the country is more divided than ever, probably, and I do think that I want our work to appeal. I would like to say to everyone, but it can't. It
Yeah.
can't. If we're going to if I'm going to tell stories about the world as I see it, there are some people that don't want to see it, right?
Yeah.
There are some people that don't want that world, which I see as our real world, to be the real world. And
with Modern Dread, we really, I think we're approaching lines because of the nature of the book. We wanted to make comments about modern things. Well, obviously, if we're talking about things in our world that scare people, or at least the idea of it, well, we can't shy away from certain things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully some content that we create can change people's views or opinions and open their eyes to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you, like I said, if you're too closed-minded.
Well, in her question, she asked, like, are you worried about saying something now that 10, 20 years down the road might not age as well? I look at it as, I'd hope I have a good enough idea of what right and wrong are. Mm-hmm. That should be timeless. Personally, I hate when an old person says something terribly bigoted, and there's someone that always inevitably speaks up and says they're from a different time. And in my mind, I'm like, well, it was wrong then too.
Right.
Yeah.
It was never acceptable.
Yeah.
So,
Or even when you look back and say like some people say some silly things when they're young on the internet.
Right.
But some people say some things when they're young on the internet that they can't really, like, I almost feel weird saying this, but they can't grow out of those feelings.
Sure.
So,
Well,
like,
there's some people you saying that, oh, you're from a different time period, but there's either you were from a different time period and you strongly believe these things and acted on them or this or that, or you were somebody that was just following a herd or this or that and maybe brainwashed or didn't make up your own opinions.
or maybe even protesting it.
Yeah, or you're the complete opposite.
And combining all
protesting.
those things, I believe the point of any art is to relay ideas. It's to share ways of looking at the world. And art, whether it be music or written word or, movies or paintings, visual mediums, it can change people. It really can.
Yeah.
Someone can watch or listen to something or read something, and it can change how they think. And just as much as I want our work to make maybe a person that feels alone in the world, empowered and that they've got someone behind their back and is speaking to them, I also wouldn't mind the idea of someone that I don't agree with that has negative views and has dangerous views even being changed for the better by it.
Oh, for sure.
And, maybe realizing the error of that and saying, wait, there's more than, my way of looking at things in the world, and I need to be more accepting. I need to be more peaceful about things.
Certainly.
So that, in a way, that's just as rewarding, because as long as you don't cross a physical line, I believe people with bad thoughts can be changed for the better over time. We've seen so many of these documentaries with like guys that were, skinheads or something in their youth, and they grew up and realized how terrible that was, and they ended up devoting their lives to, helping society move past that and educating the
some
youth.
of them were raised like as kids, they don't know anything else, and then they go
Exactly.
outside of their home, and slowly but
Definitely.
surely they realize like, no, my parents are wrong.
Yeah.
And that's also another thing that's really hard, is to say, wait, my parents are wrong.
Yeah.
And then another step to vocally go against them. So
It's
like,
evolution, and that's an individual thing just as much as it's a wide societal thing. So
It's true.
How many white kids that grew up in the South back in the day, like in the 50s and stuff, that were raised in like racist environments, ended up becoming progressive and learning to really accept and be cool with all kinds of black people because of music. The black culture has been so entwined with pop music that, hey, I love this song. Who did this? Oh my God. Like it's a black guy. So like,
it's almost like they have like this epiphany, like,
yeah,
whoa, everything I ever thought is not true.
Right.
Because
like
here's
that's
another human making some art.
That's art
sort of
opening
thing.
someone's eyes. And, just as much as we want to get behind, people that are hurt and, treated poorly, we'd also like to change some minds, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, like, while we're doing it, we don't really realize that we're doing
No, yeah.
anything inherently different.
Yeah,
Because,
creation
like
is
Pat
very
said,
selfish.
Yeah, well,
you know,
like
you
Pat
only
said,
really
it's like,
think about
this
yourself.
is our truth. So it's just like, if we have characters that are of different sexualities
Yeah.
or different races, it's like we don't really see anything weird about that because
Yeah.
that's our normal. But yet someone else who has a completely different view is like, why is all this
Right,
crap
like, we'll
inside
go
this
do a
book or
signing.
something? And it's
Yeah, like we'll go do a signing at a local comic book shop, and like a mom will be there with like her young son, you know, and so she'll flip through the book, you know, oh, the art's great and this and that, and she'll see the two, you know, the kissing scene of Logan and Lilith, and all of a sudden she's covering her son's eyes.
yeah.
No, yeah. And it's not even like a bad scene. It's just a regular kissing scene. Like maybe like, oh, bye to work, or, you know, like a romantic scene. But it's so interesting to me because I would like when we write it and when we read it, we don't think twice. We just like, this is the story.
Exactly.
Yeah,
know?
people see something inherently more sexual about two men or two women kissing than they do a man and a woman.
Because it's like a taboo.
And that's so, I think, unnatural. That's
so
such a
weird.
learned weird behavior.
It
Yeah,
really is.
totally.
Because it's like some of those scenes are like, they're just the most innocent. Like,
Right.
oh,
Absolutely.
two people sitting
And
on a
cutesy,
couch,
too.
they kiss.
I
and
mean-
it's like nothing is sexual or taboo about that.
Every
but it
Disney
just
movie has
is
a kiss,
to
too, you know?
people.
Right. That's
But
like,
you know, through
yeah.
exposure, do we learn acceptance? So
Right.
by creating more movies and more comics and more, you know, visual things, that this is just treated as normal. It's not. It's not. Hey, look at this. It's not. How cool is this? It's literally just almost like wallpaper.
yeah, like we're
That
here.
then it just becomes normal. You know, one of the coolest things. You know, I have a cousin who's like way younger than me. She's like 8, and you know, we were at a family event and she was just telling us about her friends, and you know, she just said like one of her friends had 2 moms, and this kid couldn't have thought twice about it. It was just how it was, and I was like, that's cool, because then it's normalizing it. You know, like
Yes.
Right.
if it's normal, it's not a thing anymore.
Absolutely.
You know,
I
and
love kids' reactions to things
Me
because most
too.
of them, it's before they're, you know, brainwashed by something.
They're down
Right.
for whatever.
They don't care at all. There's been great videos online of people
yeah.
being like, you know, like, what do you like about your friend? They're not going to say anything about their race. They're like, he loves cars too, and like that's all they care about.
Yeah,
They're
like, you know,
talking
it's-
about
it's like
personalities.
Right.
10-year-old
not
boys are
anything
still like,
else.
girls are icky, we hate them.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, then like literally 3 years later, they're like, oh, gay guys, oh, that's horrible. It's like, wait, what happened here? Like,
Yeah, right.
Like I remember like there was that, like you were saying, a bunch of videos about it, like how they're like sitting at the family table and just like the one little girl pipes up with a question, just a very simple question, like, hey, like you know, sort of like, what's the deal with like Stacy, you know, like their aunt's like friend or aunt's girlfriend. And the mom just goes, oh, Stacy just moved in because they were dating and now they're in love, they're probably gonna get married, you know. And the little girl goes, oh, okay, can you pass the carrots?
Yeah,
Like,
completely not
like,
caring.
of
Yeah.
course, that's the question, there's the answer, and it's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
It doesn't
really
have
is.
to be a big deal. Sometimes.
It's true. And I do know that we have some readers who do identify as conservative, but I think that we take these labels and we run with them even when we as people change. I know that I have people in my family, people that I grew up with as friends, who still claim conservative, whose social beliefs are all liberal because they. And I think that that's the kind of person
Just a different time now where you have to organize it that way.
Also being
Who can definitely read the book
conservative,
and
but
still-
not aggressive. You know,
Right.
that exists. People
I
that
think
are.
I think most people don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah,
personally, you know,
hopefully.
and so
hopefully,
Hopefully.
well, you know what I mean. You know, like
Right.
I think once you put a face and a name on someone that maybe you didn't think you would like,
Right.
that changes everything. You know,
Yeah.
so many, you know, I've heard from my grandfather who, you know, served in World War II and everything, that a lot of the guys, you know, back in the 40s, obviously there was racism, was, you know, segregation, everything was a lot more prevalent. But so many of those guys were not racist anymore after they got out of the service because, hey, we're lining up to die and putting our lives in the hands of these black guys, just like they're putting
Side by
our,
side.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
that's
don't
it.
see
It's
it
exposure,
anymore.
and they
Yeah.
would all find out. Hey, I came from a poor family. Me too. Hey, we like this same
I like
stuff.
this tobacco. I like this tobacco.
If you're willing to fight for and die for the same cause, then what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know, like you can't
Fuck it,
possibly,
essentially.
and that's what I mean. You know, like you put a face on it, you put a name on it, and suddenly it's a person. It's not. You can't say you don't like these people because then that's saying you don't like this guy, and that's just not true.
Right.
And you know what, too? I think as a creator, I think if someone picks up my work and likes some of it and doesn't like other parts of it that are more political, that's okay.
Exactly.
There are works that I read that I disagree with writers that I love all the time.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's perfectly
natural.
okay to me.
Yeah.
And for example, everyone in the world can enjoy Clonsters.
It's true. It's true. And in
Hell
fact,
yeah.
And on that
Monsters-
note, we think everyone in the world
ages.
would really enjoy some spicy nuggets from Burger King. Spicy nuggets
Imagine
aren't
this.
Republican
You're
or Democrat.
You're sitting
They're
with the
pretty
nuggets.
awesome.
You've got Modern Dread. You've got Clonsters. You're ready to go.
and I do just want to say, for those who aren't aware, Clonsters is an all ages book that we're going to be focusing on in a future episode because it's coming out this December.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And
excited.
I think it's time to wrap up.
Yes.
That was a fun first episode, you guys. All right. This has been the Space Between podcast. You can follow us at Space Between Ent on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yep.
And if you want to have your questions answered, you can email us at, again, spacebetweenent@gmail.com, repping Google, and
Or hit us up on any of those social sites.
any of those. So again, thank you for listening, and
Thank you.
bye, you guys.
Bye.